So every vegan has their story. You've been asking for it. Here's mine. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Shannon and I go over delicious food, vegan reviews, and holistic living over 40. So everyone has a story. And today I'm going to take you through my vegan story. I know if you've been following me for a while, you've probably heard little bits and pieces about how I grew up, what made me go vegan, but I wanted to sit down and just talk to you one-on-one and tell you a little bit about my vegan story so that you can see that you're not alone and that everybody has struggles and everyone does it for different reasons. So my vegan story pretty much has to start from the moment that I popped out. And I know I kind of touched base on this a little bit in my 25 things to know about me video, but just in case you haven't seen it, I pretty much popped out sick. I immediately went into an incubator. They shot me full of needles and put me full of medications, and that was pretty much the beginning of a really hard childhood. I was sick pretty much since the beginning. And back then, we really didn't know what diet and movement and all the different types of emotional and physical and mental stress could do to people. So I pretty much grew up in a single parent household. It was just mom and I. Mom and dad got divorced really, really young. I don't actually even remember my dad being in the household. So we were basically a foodie family. We loved food. I mean, back then, if you were a child of the 70s and 80s, it was Kool-Aid and Little Debbie's and going out to McDonald's and, you know, trying to do things as a family that weren't that expensive but were fun and engaging. We always were into the arts, and it just, I wasn't like other kids. When I was getting ready to actually transfer schools, because I went to a Catholic school growing up, and then when 8th grade hit, mom was like, it's up to you what you want to do with your life. If you want to transfer, you can transfer. She was actually a librarian at one of the middle schools, and I just wanted to see what it was like being somewhere else. So I really wanted to transfer to that public school for my 8th grade. And the teachers were really concerned because they're like, you do know that her limitations are going to be very different at a public school. She's averaging about 30 days a year being sick. And yes, that was a little concerning to me, but I wanted something new. I wanted to just get out of there, move on with my life. And I didn't care that I was sick, that I had the possibility of getting in trouble with their attendance issues. So I just said, screw it, I'm gonna go. And for that, I mean, it was pretty much where there were a lot of days that I was sick, and there were times when mom and I, we'd be going out, we'd go to the grocery store, and it'd be like, I don't feel good, I gotta go home. And it was a fun childhood, but I always remember in the back of my head that there were things that I wanted to do. Like, I got picked. There were 2 of us in school that got picked to go on to a special trip that was going to be this type of convention, special classes for limited people. And it was the morning of. They were actually on their way to pick me up, and I had to call them and say, I can't do this. I don't feel good. I'm too sick. I can't go on a road trip right now. Road trips were not fun. I always had to make sure that I had goldfish, saltines, water, you know, something, because I was never, and it's not driving that made me sick. It was just, I think now more of the uncertainty of how long before I had a bathroom, you know, where were we going? We're growing up in Wisconsin, rural country, cow country everywhere, so it might be a while before you could pull over anywhere. So I mean, this was just my normal life. Kids would come down with the flu or a cold and be out for a day or two, and I'd be out for 3-4 days. I never really bounced back like I should have. So childhood, not the healthiest. I did get better for 8th grade. That was really, really good. Had lots of great experiences, met a lot of people, really grew in just my self-expression, my art, my reading. I really liked that change, and I'm so happy that I did it. Then for high school, Mom and I, she always knew my goal at that time was to become a marine biologist, and we knew that we were either going to move to Florida or Texas at some point for my schooling. And my aunt and uncle, they were down in Florida. They're like, hey, you're coming to visit us all the time anyways during summer breaks. Why don't you just move to Florida? So we made the jump in 2019. Let's try that again. I made the jump in 1992. Yes, I did the math right. 1992 is when I started high school, and it was so different and so exciting. And I'm getting into school, and I got in with a great group of friends. We were kind of the eclectic group. You know, we had someone that was in, you know, military training. We had another person that was a Southern girl. We had another girl that was in the arts, and you had me that was more of the intuitive, the kind of the go-getter for school. You know, broke the bell curve a couple of times there. But it was really great that I was able to immediately get into this group of girls, because unfortunately in the beginning of February 2000, why do I keep wanting to say 2000? In the beginning of February 1993, my life completely changed. And when I say that, it completely changed. I had a number of bouts with the colds, flus. I had ruptured ovarian cysts. I basically got knocked on my ass, and it took a very, very long time to get back. At that point, I pretty much had to go on what they called homebound, which was homeschooling back then. You know, a teacher would come out at the end of the day to get me caught up on school and my homework assignments, give me my tests. There were classes over the phone. They called them teleclasses. And it was basically, there were a couple of kids in there that were sick like me. Most of the girls were pregnant. So it was definitely interesting, to say the least. The doctors, they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. They kept giving me all these different labels, and they finally came down saying, we can't figure out what's wrong with you. You're just gonna have to live with it, which really pissed me off. Yeah, the school nurses saying, oh, she's school phobic. Come on. I was pretty much a straight A student, graduated with honors at the end of school. I was not school phobic. I liked the girls that I was in. I loved learning. I loved classes. I loved my teachers. I wasn't school phobic, people. So I basically finished out my freshman year on being homebound. I did go back my sophomore year. I think it's been so long since I've been in high school. I went back for, was it a week at the beginning, and then started right back up. So I had to go back to homeschooling. Junior year, I was able to go back for 2 weeks, and it started really bad again. Couldn't keep up with it. Thankfully, senior year, I was able to go back my entire senior year, and like I said, graduated with honors. I was in OJT and DCT and the yearbook club. I mean, I was in a bunch of different things, and it was so nice that I was finally able to finish out my senior year actually at high school. Still had that great group of friends. We all pretty much stayed in touch the entire time. They'd come over and see me, see how I was doing. So high school wasn't your typical high school for me, which brought me into college. I did end up going into the community college in town here, and that was really different because, you know, you're going to and from, the classes were longer. I really enjoyed it. A few classes don't like math, still don't like math. Public speaking, freaked me the hell out. I love the teacher, but that to me was a real big growing point, and who knew years down the road I'd be public speaking in front of people, teaching classes and doing videos. So that was a real turner for me on that one. One thing that was different for my early college years was I actually got engaged my senior year and got married. Oh man, try and block that part of my life out. I think it was a year after I graduated high school, so a year into college, something like that. That I know now really pushed my limits because of the amount of mental and emotional stress that I was dealing with in my marriage, and then the mental and physical stress of going to school. It was different. I did end up getting my AA degree, and that I pretty much majored in psychology. After they took a look at it, they go, "Are you majoring in psychology?" And I'm like, "No, I want to be a marine biologist." So that was a little different. After that, I transferred to the University of Tampa to get my bachelor's degree in marine biology. And after a year, I couldn't handle it anymore. UT is a very hard school, and then when you're talking commuting, man, I was in traffic probably about 3 hours a day, along with 8 hours of school, along with dealing with a marriage that was slowly turning me into a huge emotional eater. I mean, it was a very dark time. I ended up, after that first year looking at it, I was not doing well in school, which I don't do bad in school. I just don't. I don't like it. It's something that was a huge shocker to me when I would get my report cards and I'd be like, oh my God. And then when you look at it, $10,000? Yes, I know now I'm going, what the hell was I thinking? But I had to completely stop school. It wasn't gonna happen. I was also working at that time, a part-time job, and I was able to keep my part-time job, thankfully. My doctors at the time said that she needs to quit school and work because she's just too sick. But I needed the money. You know, we just couldn't survive on his income alone. And eventually, I think it was in 2001, I had to pull away from my job also because it was just too hard for me to get up, deal with all of my medical issues, deal with a marriage, deal with a job. It was too much for me. Then, let's see, things pretty much, I just existed. I was really, really sick. At one point I had a TIA. I think that was when I was 27. It was either 27 or 28. I had a TIA on top of all of my medical issues. At that time, again, tons of different tests being done. And the doctors again came back saying, we're not quite sure why you had your TIA. Your blood is really thick. All of your tests are coming back normal. Thankfully, he was a good doctor. He's like, we're gonna put you on blood thinners. Didn't know at that time that I was allergic to blood thinners, just like I'm allergic to antibiotics, so yay. But he at least at that point did also say you wanna increase your garlic intake, your onion intake. There's some natural blood thinners out there too that you can do if the blood thinners don't work. So it was kind of nice that he gave me that kind of little heads up, here's a little tip, because yeah, sure enough, I ended up the blood thinners got a huge reaction to them. I'm also allergic to aspirin, but I kind of forced myself to get used to being on baby aspirin and just being at that slightly uncomfortable phase because I literally could feel when my blood was really thick, my arms would start hurting, my legs would start hurting, and it was not a good time. So fast forward to the divorce finally came. Yes, divorce finally came. At that point, it was, still had been working throughout the years. At that time, I was up in Pennsylvania taking care of my father-in-law, who eventually did unfortunately pass due to stage 4 bone cancer. Still really, really thankful that I did move up there because we just became so close at that time. And I learned a lot about myself, why I was up there. So Mom said, that's it, we're getting you back down to Florida. She flew up there and we packed as much as I could into my little 3-door Saturn. I had 3 cats, a dog, Mom, myself, driving cross country from Pennsylvania down to Florida. That was fun. But that was the point of where my life started over. And if you watch my weight loss video, you did see a picture of me. If not, I'll make sure that I put it up there again. 216 pounds, highly depressed, on Prozac at the time, emotional eating, and it was not a good time for me. But I was getting divorced, I was getting my freedom back, I was gonna start my life over. And I did get in with a group of people through meetup.com and found a really good friend at that time who ended up being organizer of one of the groups, and we'd go out, and she's the one that really got me socialized after my divorce. I started doing volleyball since she loved volleyball, so we'd go out and do that. I just really grew a lot at that time. I ended up, after a year, getting involved with a guy who I ended up dating for 3 years, actually lived with for a while, and he really helped me get over a lot of things that became an issue during my marriage. I had a lot of baggage, and even though our relationship did have an expiration date, I am so thankful that I was with him, because he did help me get through so much baggage from my marriage, from my early times of not being healthy. It just was a great growing and learning experience for me. So that was, oh man, 6 years ago now. And so basically, during that time, I really started focusing on my health. After I got divorced, I went back to school, got my bachelor's degree in alternative medicine. I specialized in nutrition. I got a number of different certifications that dealt with nutrition and alternative medicine. I immediately went gluten-free when I got divorced, and then I slowly became pescatarian, vegetarian. 2 years ago, I did make a huge leap. I mean, during this whole time, my medical issues were slowly getting better. My weight was starting to drop off. My mental state was getting a lot better. I immediately, after I got divorced, I did go off of Prozac, and I went on to passion flower. And then I found out that holy basil was better than passion flower. So I still actually keep that around for like holiday seasons, because I can feel myself slipping just a little bit back into that state. But 2 years ago is when my vegan part of my story actually started up, and I was, interested in nutrition. I was watching one of those nutrition summits, and they had a special deal where you could get, for $99, you could get Food Matters TV, and I decided, well, I really want to learn about some more stuff, start growing, watching a few documentaries, and just seeing all the different areas that I'm now slowly learning about, at that time being vegetarian. It was vegetarian, borderline pescatarian. I was pretty much vegetarian, except for like maybe once or twice a month I would have seafood. But I started watching a few of their documentaries, and then when we got down to Vegucated, that one for me was the page turner, because I had pretty much watched nutrition-based documentaries. That was the first one that really showed me the behind the scenes of what happens to the animals, and just how the meat and dairy industry make you think that it's one way, you're perceiving how things are going on behind the scenes, but in reality, they're just labels. There's a lot of hidden stuff in there. And when I saw those poor little animals, I swear it gets me a little emotional still, because I am an animal girl. They showed parts of how these baby chicks were going down the escalators, and they'd go live into the grinder, and it's like, oh my god. And you'd see these poor little baby pigs trying to hide from this person with this little stun thingy, and they'd shoot them in the forehead, and they just go into these huge seizures. I can't, sorry. It just was like, oh my God. And that's one of the reasons why I can't watch things like Earthlings or Cowspiracy, because I know that they go further in depth into what's really going on behind the scenes. It breaks my heart to see these poor creatures, just because we're so selfish and uneducated about what is really going on. And if everybody was watching these things, if you're an animal lover, a lover of the planet, I know you wouldn't go back to eating animal products. But I mean, I was in tears watching all of this stuff, and I said, that's it. I can't go back. I can't do this. I will never knowingly go back to eating animal products. I don't care how much I enjoyed that cheese growing up and how much I miss Wisconsin cheese curds. I don't care how good those Bang Bang shrimps tasted. I don't care. It is not worth it to put a poor creature in that type of a situation, to just basically make their life meaningless, and to see how their reactions are. These poor cows running after their calves that are being taken away. Cows are meant to run, yet they will, just to try and save their child. And it's like, that's it. Never ever going back again. So to me, it started out with affecting my health. I officially went vegan because of the animals. And as they're learning about different things, it really is an eye-opener. Your life just changes. And for people that have actually gone through their vegan story and are doing it now, you all had that aha moment, that where your life just changed, and nothing that you look at anymore goes back to the way that it was. I mean, I'm slowly now getting into fashion and makeup and changing that part of my life. Just learning how they always say, driving your car and washing, taking showers, that hugely impacts, but they don't talk about how much factory farming uses water and land, and how much of the rainforest is destroyed, and how much this world is changing. It's just, your mind will be blown. Sorry, camera turned off. Which means it's probably about the 20-minute mark. You guys are probably getting a little tired, but I get a little passionate about my story. So there's a lot of different things, and right now I'm slowly going into that next level. A huge step for me was creating my YouTube channel and my Instagram page to get more information out there. There are topics that are about holistic living over 40. Yes, that's going to be more of holistic living, aromatherapy, the vegan lifestyle, as far as the lifestyle part of it, because it is a social movement. That's kind of going to be in there. Since I love food, I'll be going over delicious food. For me, my sweet spot is doing restaurant reviews and product reviews and food reviews, because I know in the beginning a lot of that stuff tastes like crap. It was so horrible. Cardboard and no flavor and gummy textures. But nowadays, you guys are good. If you're starting out veganism now, really good. If you're starting out gluten-free now, really good time. So I'm sure there's probably things that I'm missing on here. If there's any questions that you have, please leave a comment down below. I'll try and get to more of a Q&A type of a video for you guys. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, the like button. If you really can relate to this, tell me a little bit about your story. It's just, again, this is something that I've really started to get very passionate about, and things change. Do baby steps. Every little bit of movement, forward movement, is huge. There is a huge impact that you can make. Don't think that you can't do this, that you're not making enough changes, because every little thing that you do will help create a positive impact on the animals and this planet and yourself. So I really hope you enjoyed this, and thank you, and have a good day.